Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm James, continuing on with my Balsa USA Stingray 120 build. In this video, I'm going to be attaching the horizontal stabilizer and the fin. So the horizontal stabilizer is going to attach right back here on the top portion of the tail of the fuselage. And then on top of that, after I get this installed, I'm going to attach the fin, which I'm just going to prop up with a couple foam sanding blocks just so we can kind of see the way it's going to look. Obviously, it's going to go on here like this, hopefully. Boom. As an option, the kit supplies you with a piece of wood for a dorsal fin. I like the way it looks, so I'm going to go ahead and add it to mine. And that's just going to attach right on here like this. And of course, I'll have to shape it and fit it so that it all blends in, looks like one piece. One thing I did do already is I already shaped the fin here. I've already shaped the leading edge. So I will have to, after I cut this to the right sort of angle, I'll have to groove it out, if you will, sort of right along the edge, just so that it kind of plugs in and then attaches nice and flush. Okay, so this step is a little bit tricky because these pieces don't attach to the fuselage they don't plug in, they don't slot into anything. The horizontal stabilizer just sits right on top of the back part of the fuselage like this. And of course the fin just sits right on top of that. There's nothing kind of plugging it in or aligning it for me. So it's going to be a little bit tricky, and it's not that big of a deal. I just have to take, I'll have to take my time. And I'm going to be using two sort of methods or two steps. I'm going to spend some time trying to get everything lined up with measuring. I'm going to take my measuring tape, and for example, I'm going to measure from sort of the tip areas of the wing back to the tip areas of the horizontal stabilizer, and make sure that they're parallel with each other as much as possible when I'm looking down on it, right? And then I'm also going to be looking down the wing from behind and looking, sighting down toward the wing and looking at the horizontal stabilizer again to make sure that when I'm looking at it, the both of them are lined up with each other like this. Again, you don't want them to be, like this. You want them to be like this. And once I get that guy aligned, then I can come back and put on the fin. So it's going to be a combination of measuring and using levels to get everything sort of lined up. And then also it's going to be taking some time to sight down the plane from different vantage points or different views. So when I stand back and look at it, I want everything to look like it's aligned okay. And the reason I'm going to do that, or the reason you need to do that in my opinion, is because I've never built a perfect airplane. There's always some little tweak or some little thing on the, this is wood, it's coming from, you're building it from a kit, and you get, for me, I've never, like I said, I've never built a perfect airplane, so things are off, can be off just by like a little bit. So I don't want to rely totally on measurements, because if this is off a little bit up here, and I'm measuring off of that point to something back here, then I'm just basically carrying that mismeasurement or carrying that little tweak all the way back to this portion here. So let me just give you a little example of kind of what I'm going to need to do here. So if you look at the tail section here, the fuselage sides come together and then it's open in the middle. So the horizontal stabilizer is just going to be supported by this side and this side. Now, again, like I said, things aren't perfect. So if this side or one side is a little higher than the other one, then obviously when I put this guy on here like this, it could be, and I'm just going to exaggerate it, if one side's higher than the other one, obviously it could be doing something like this, highly exaggerated, of course. But here it is like this. So I'm going to check this, and then most likely I'm going to have to sort of probably trim or sand a little bit on one side just to kind of bring it down to get it to be as level as possible. And that's going to be sort of the process for this, for the horizontal stabilizer. And then I'm going to be using a 30-minute epoxy. So once I do sort of the first sort of trial run, getting it lined up to where I think it needs to be and making any adjustments I need, then I'll put this back on. I'll just put 30-minute epoxy. That'll give me time to work with it. I'll get it back on here. I'll line it one more time to make sure it's all good, and then I'll just pin it into place or use weights just to make sure it's nice and secure. I'll let that cure up and then come back and we'll put the fin on. All right, well, I need to do one thing before I attach these, and that is I'm going to be using, I mentioned this before, I'm going to be using these hinge points for my hinge system. And these are from Robart, as I mentioned, I think in a video or so back. Robart is a company that I believe is going out of business, and if you can't get them from Robart, there's other suppliers or other makers of these. But the thing about them is, if you look at them, they're not a tab, they're not like a flat tab like a typical hinge. They're just basically, they call them hinge points. They're long and skinny, and you just drill a hole and then you stick them in like that. The thing about them is they're a little bit long, and if you look at the trailing edge back here, the thing's about a 1/2 inch or so. Maybe it's a little less than a 1/2 inch, and these hinge points are closer to 1 inch long. So I'm just going to take some stock material like this, and I'm just going to cut little sections of it, you know, and I'm just going to attach them in here, sort of like this. I'm just going to attach them in here where the hinges are going to be, just so that when I come back later after this thing is all covered with monocoat, I'll drill them out and I'll be able to attach the hinge points, and they'll have enough to sort of grab onto. These blocks here, if you recall, are actually from an earlier step, and these are going to be where these alignment, if you remember, if you look at the kit, maybe you're not familiar with it, but these guys go like this again, and there's basically these support wires or these support rods that attach to the fin and the horizontal stabilizer, and they actually go down to the lower portion of the fuselage also. All right, well, there we go. We have the horizontal stabilizer, the rudder, and the dorsal fin now attached to the plane. I took some time, as you noted in the video, I took some time making sure I got it as lined up as good as I could. You know, it's not perfect. I measured from the trailing edge of the wing to the trailing edge of the horizontal stabilizer. That was about 31.5 on each side. And then I went to the tips and I measured tip to tip, from the tip of the wing to the tip of the rear portion of the stabilizer, and also to the front. And I came up on the back, it came up to about 40 3/4 of an inch on either side. And those are not perfect measurements. They were maybe slightly above 31.5 and such. In any case, I think, you know, for a plane this big, building from a kit with wood and shaping like I've mentioned before, I just don't think you're ever going to get it perfect. You'd be happy to have it like exactly the same on both sides, but if you're off by, you know, 1/16 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, I don't think that's a real big deal to worry about. And I think if you went and you measured, you got an ARF, for example, that was already built for you, and you put it all together and you made some measurements, you would probably find in a lot of cases that those aren't perfect either. The next step is something that I'm actually getting excited about, is I'm going to be covering the plane with monocoat. And I have right here my colors. I've already ordered them. And I got red. I'm going to make it red, white, and blue. And where's my blue? There's the blue. And so here are my colors. I got a lot of the white because the wing is going to be white and the lower half of the fuselage is going to be white. And then the upper half of the fuselage I'm going to do with the dark blue. And then I'm going to use some red accents. I'm going to put red on the end plates of the wings and some red striping here and there. But it's going to be kind of a simple pattern, but it's going to look nice, I think. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and clean up my workbench for my next step, even though I probably won't be doing the monocoat over here on my workbench because it's too small, but I'm going to clean up my workbench and get set up for that covering process. And until then, I always appreciate it. Thanks for watching my channel, and we'll see you next time.